First annual Los Angeles Times Festival of Books. We know why we're all here today, because books rule. So before we begin, I want to let you know that if you would like to purchase Stan Lee's wonderful book, you can do so at the Vroman's bookstore booth right over there, and he will be signing books at the arch over there, at the tent inside the arch over there. It's going to be a great day. Are you all ready for a wonderful day? So, let's not wait any longer. Our first guest is a living legend and is known to millions as the co-creator of Spider-Man, The Avengers, X-Men, Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, The Fantastic Four, as well as hundreds of others. And he is the chairman emeritus of Marvel. Now currently, he's the chairman and chief creative officer of POW Entertainment, where he continues to create characters and superhero franchises for a new generation. His book, amazing, fantastic, incredible, a marvelous memoir, is part memoir and part graphic novel. And he's being interviewed today by LA Times writer Javon Phillips. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Javon Phillips and the incredible Stan Lee.
You're getting this, right?
Huh?
You're getting this.
Wow. What do you think of this crowd here?
Oh, I don't know. There could be some more people. Did everybody show?
You grab my umbrella?
So, as everybody heard, Stan has it's called Amazing, Fantastic, Incredible, a marvelous memoir. If you can't see it back there, but it's an awesome retelling of Mr. Lee's life. And we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that are in it, and just go over how he grew up, how he learned to do what he does, and some of the spectacular things that he's created. So first I'm going to ask a little bit about growing up. So growing up, you listed a lot of inspirations in the memoir. Edgar Allan Poe, Chandu the Magician, Shakespeare. I can use the mic? You got it? Okay, great. I'm going to ask about some inspirations that he had that are in his memoir, like Edgar Allan Poe and Shakespeare and Chandu the Magician.
They were good too.
Who or what started you reading comics?
Well, actually, when I read comics when I was very young, they didn't have comic books. They were just comics in the newspaper. There were comics like Prince Valiant and Rip Kirby and just regular little comics, The Phantom. I loved them in the newspaper. Then years later, of course, the comic books came along, but that's chapter 2.
I'm going to skip ahead a bit. You have a few anecdotes in there, but I rarely hear people ask you about your military service and how that may have prepared you for the career that you have now.
Well, when I volunteered for the Army, thinking I'd be a big war hero, and they put me in the Signal Corps, and just before I went overseas, some colonel grabbed me, and he said, "Wait a minute, didn't you write comics?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, we want you in our instructional unit." So they put me in a place where I had to write training films, and I had to write instructional books, and I used comic book characters, which I created. There was one guy, I made a character called, now I forgot his name, but he was to teach them how to do payrolls. Then I had other characters who taught the troops how to shoot an M1 rifle, and all kind of anything that they needed to teach. I had to do a book or a movie about it. So I got a hell of a lot of experience except I didn't win the war single-handedly, which frustrated me a little bit.
Well, you helped write a character that very much was instrumental in the war with Captain America. And, you know, he's a movie coming out, and you've seen his movie and his story come to fruition. You led the charge with Marvel branching out from comics to other mediums, TV and film. Has the growth of the comics industry surprised you at all?
Had the what?
The growth.
The growth?
Yeah.
No, nothing ever surprises me. I take everything for granted. But Captain America is the one character, I've got to be sure you understand this. I did not create him. Captain America was created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, two geniuses. But the thing is, after the war, we stopped publishing Captain America. My publisher didn't want to publish him anymore. And after a while, I loved that character so that I said, I want to bring him back. And my publisher didn't really want me to, but one day when he was on vacation, I did a Captain America story, but I thought it would be fun to make him somebody who had been frozen in a glacier for years. During the war, he fell out of a plane, and instead of dying, he landed in this ice, and it kept him alive, and then he was found years later. So he was really an anachronism. He was a man out of time. He didn't understand about hippies and drugs and things like that, because he was from an earlier time. So I wanted to give him a little interest in his background and his personality, and he tried to adjust to the way things are now. So I loved writing the new Captain America, and I'm so glad that he's now become one of Marvel's main characters. Thank you, Captain America lovers.
So, as the intro said, there's also X-Men, there's also Spider-Man, there's also the Incredible Hulk. In the memoir here, you talk about how you came up with some of the characters that you have. Is there one in particular that was actually tough to come up with because you had an idea, but you had to name them or something like that?
They were all tough to come up with because my publisher never saw eye to eye with me. I'll tell you a story about Spider-Man. And we had done the Fantastic Four, and it sold well. And then I forget the next one. Maybe it was the Hulk. I don't remember. But we were sort of on a roll. So my publisher said, come on, come up with a new hero. So I was trying to think of something different. And I saw a fly crawling on the wall. And I thought, wow, it would be great if I could get a character who could stick to walls like an insect. So the next thing I needed was a name. So I thought Insect Man, that didn't have it. Fly Man, I don't know, Mosquito Man, and then I got to Spider Man. It just sounded so dramatic. And I thought I would make him a teenager to make him different than all the other characters. And then I thought I would give him a lot of personal problems. That would make him even more different. So I went running into my publisher and I told him my idea. And he said, Stan, that is the worst idea I have ever heard. He said, first of all, people hate spiders, so you can't call a hero Spider-Man. He can't be a teenager. A teenager can only be a sidekick. And you want him to have personal problems? Stan, don't you know what a superhero is? He practically kicked me out of the office. But we had a magazine we were about to kill. It was called Amazing Fantasy. It wasn't selling that well. We were going to kill it. Now, when you kill a magazine, nobody cares what you put in the last issue because you're killing it anyway. So just to get it out of my system, I put Spider-Man on the cover of the last issue of Amazing Fantasy. When the sales figures came in, it was our best-selling book that month. So my publisher came running into my office. He said, Stan, do you remember that character Spider-Man that we both liked so much? Let's do it as a series. And that's how Spidey was born. Tell you another thing about that. When I wanted to do the X-Men, I wanted to call them the Mutants. And my genius publisher said, you can't call them the Mutants because nobody knows what a mutant is. So I had to get a name. And I figured, well, they're guys and girls with extra power. I'll call them the X-Men. And he went along with that. But as I walked out of his office, I was thinking, if nobody knows what a mutant is, how will anybody know what an X-Man is? But I had my name, I didn't want to argue.
Wow. That's awesome. And there are so many more stories like that in the memoir. Why did you've done autobiographies, or someone has done a biography of you. Why do you think you wanted to do it in a graphic novel form like this?
I didn't come up with the idea. I got a call from Simon & Schuster, the publishers, and they said, we'd like to do your life story. And I said, it's already been done. They said, no, we want to do it as a graphic novel. Seemed like a good idea to me, so that's why we did it. I have trouble saying no to any new idea. And a graphic novel biography where it looks like a book with a hardcover and everything, but it's the only hardcover graphic novel I knew about. I love the idea.
That's very cool. And you talk about new ideas. So if you guys don't know, Stan also has POW Entertainment out there. You got new characters, new teams, new ideas. Can you talk a little bit about what some of those are, just for people that may not know?
Well, I'm still with Marvel Comics. I'm I got some title, Chairman Emeritus, that's right. But I formed my own company also with a friend of mine, and it's called POW Entertainment. And I'm sure you all realize that POW stands for Purveyors of Wonder. And Gil Champion and me, he's my partner, we've got a number of movies that are in the works now, and I can't wait till next year when you start seeing them. One of them is called The Annihilator, and he's one of the great characters. It's going to be filmed partly in China and then all over the world. So remember to watch for The Annihilator. And we have about 3 other superheroes and 1 or 2 superheroines that we're developing also. Wait till you see. One of our superheroine movies stars a girl who is the biggest movie star in China, and she begged to play this role. So wait till you get that. Let's see, what else are we doing? We're doing everything. Oh, we have a TV show in England called Stanley's Lucky Man. It's about a character whose power is luck. And the show is a big hit there. They just renewed it for another season, and it'll be coming over here. And if any of you doesn't watch it, I'm not going to come to any more of these book festivals.
We don't want that. So I know a lot of people out there are not just readers, but writers. What kind of advice would you give to someone, especially in the climate of today? What kind of advice would you give to someone starting out as either an artist or a writer or an editor even in the comics world itself?
Boy, that's a big assignment. I think the rules are the same, whether it's the comics world or movies or novels or anything that's creative. The only thing that I would suggest, if you're a writer, I have always tried to write stories that I thought I would enjoy reading. Some writers write for other people, like they'll say to me, I just wrote a book for people from the age of 27 to 36. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to write for specific ages. Or some writers will say, I just wrote a book that they're going to love in the big cities or in the farms. I don't know how to do that either. I only know how to write stories that I myself would want to read. And I figure I'm not that different from everybody else. If I want to read it, there must be a lot of other people that do. So for a writer, the one advice, and I hope it's good advice, I don't know, I'm not a teacher, but the one advice I can think of is write something that you yourself think is good. And the chances are, and this is not an insult, you're not that unique. If you think it's good, there'll be other people too. As far as artists, all you can do is draw the best you can, see what the artwork looks like in the comic books, practice drawing. If you think your artwork is as good as what's already being published, submit it to the editor. If it isn't as good as what's being published, don't bother, because they don't need it. The only thing they need is artwork as good as what they have or better. What was the rest of the question?
I think that was it.
Okay.
Last question would be just for now, in terms of, we talked about Captain America coming out. There's the Daredevil series on Netflix, which did pretty well, and it was pretty good. Things that are coming up, like Luke Cage and other Doctor Strange, things like that. What do you think about the current, not just the comics climate, but how comics have kind of gotten into society, and the movies and the TV shows that are coming out now? They're a little darker than they were, but what do you think about how things are now?
I have a theory about why superhero comics are so popular. All of us, I'm sure, when we were kids, loved to read fairy tales when we were very young.
Yeah.
We loved to read tales about giants and monsters and witches and things like that. You get a little older, you can't read fairy tales anymore, but I think we never outgrow our love for those kind of stories. Now, along come superhero stories. To me, they're really fairy tales for older people. You have people with powers like you'd have in a fairy tale, but you try to write it as realistically as possible. I think as long as we have good writers, and every year we get better and better writers, I'm so jealous of most of them. And as long as we have good artists and smart publishers, I think the comic book business will just grow and grow, and with it, the movies will grow and grow, and I don't see any end to it, because it's the type of entertainment that people seem to love. I know I love it, and I'm part of people, so I know I'm right.
Now, a while ago, I got to ask you a question about not just your favorite characters, but who you'd like to see on screen. And it was before Fantastic Four, I think, and you said that you would love to have seen the Silver Surfer. Is there another character out there, besides the ones you're working with in POW, that you'd like to see them?
The one character that hasn't been done right yet is the Dr. Doom. Couldn't think of his name for a minute.
Yep.
Dr. Doom has always been my favorite villain, but he wasn't done right in the Fantastic Four movie. Now, one thing I love about Dr. Doom, I don't know if you ever thought of this. He wants to rule the world, obviously. Now, have you ever thought wanting to rule the world is not a crime? You could walk up to a policeman and you could say, "Officer, I want to rule the world." He can't arrest you. So to me, Dr. Doom isn't really a villain. He's just a nice guy with a superpower who'd like to rule the world. And I don't know why people don't accept that. Anyway, if I were writing the next story with Dr. Doom, I would have a lot of fun with him in that context. Now, Unfortunately, I talk so much that I forget what I'm talking about. I forgot what the question was. There a question?
You answered it. You answered it. Now I'm going to ask a question. We've got the goodwill, but what do you see as the biggest problem in comics today? There's a lot of change. There's a lot of there's a big push for diversity and things like that. But what do you think might be the biggest thing that they can improve in comics today?
Gee, that's really not for me to say. I look at the comics and I think they're wonderful. They get better every month, especially those that have a little picture of me somewhere in the story. No, I think they're doing a great job. You see, every month we get more and better writers. We get people who write novels and movies and so forth, and they suddenly realize, hey, comics are becoming very important. I ought to be writing a comic book. So we keep getting great writers. We have great artists. And when you have a great writer and a great artist telling a story, well, that's about as good as it... Look, Shakespeare was a great writer. He didn't have artists, but he had actors on the stage who carried out his play. Well, comics are the same thing. Instead of actors on a stage, we have pictures of the people doing things. It's a Steve, I'll show you what a name dropper I am. Steven Spielberg once said to me, you know, Stan, you and I, this was years ago, you and I do pretty much the same thing, except my pictures move. Well, now, in our comics, with all the movies, our pictures move too. So I'm just like Steven Spielberg, who's a great guy.
In terms of, I guess this may be the last question, but in terms of your...
I've been talking too long. It gives him a chance to think of more questions.
Yes, it's great too. In terms of your memoir and your life story in general, what message do you want people to take away from it that read it?
What message do I want people to take away from?
Of your life story.
Of my life story? I never thought of that. I didn't write so you take a message away. I just hope you'd enjoy reading it and look at all the pretty pictures. I don't really have any message except as you move on in life, try to do the thing you really enjoy doing. When you're looking for an occupation, for a job, for a life's work, do what you enjoy doing. If you enjoy carpentry, stick to that. If you enjoy electronics, stick to that. If you enjoy medicines, whatever it is that you really care about, try not to get sidetracked into doing something else. Because if you work at whatever you enjoy doing, you never feel as though you're working. It's like you're playing. I feel as if I've never worked a day in my life. I've enjoyed what I've done. How's that for an answer?
That's an awesome answer. And thank you very much for the time.
Hey, thank all of you. You've been great. I love you all.
Stanley will be signing at the autograph booth as well, so please go on and try to get something signed. We didn't do questions because we want more time for Stan to kind of get to talk to and see all the people that are out there. So he's going to sign in the autograph booth in mere minutes.
Okay.
1, 2. How about another big hand for Javon Phillips and Stan Lee?
Who was ever too blase for love? Make this a night for love. If we have to fight, let's fight for love. Some say cry for love.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to remind you, if you want to purchase Stan's book, you'll find it at Vroman's bookstore right over here. And Stan will be signing, autographing books over in the autograph section over there. We hope you have a great day. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for being a part of this. We have lots more wonderful guests coming up, so stick around. It's going to be a great day because books rule.